what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
The town of Rolling Stone will be back, and we'll be with you every step of the way. And what did I say? I said Rolling Fork, Rolling Stone. I got my mind going here.
Yeah. Or the opposite. Joe Biden, of course, President of the United States of America, Rolling Spring, Mississippi, in the town of Rolling Stone. Sounds appropriate, doesn't it, John? That if the president's going to mess up the town of Rolling Spring, he's going to use the phrase Rolling Stone.
Why not?
It just seems completely appropriate for him. And now, on the 2024 presidential race, on the GOP side, another guy has tossed his hat into the ring.
You were thinking about running for president. Have you made a decision? Are you running?
I have made a decision, and my decision is I'm going to run for president of the United States. And the reason, as I've traveled the country for 6 months, I hear people talk about the leadership of our country, and I'm convinced that people want leaders that appeal to the best of America and not simply appeal to our worst instincts.
And as a boring old white guy, I feel like I'm it. This doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, right. How old is this guy? Like, is he another 75-year-old white guy? I mean, really?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm the same way. I'm like, let's do something different. Give us another Nikki Haley or Vivek Ramaswamy. Give us somebody like that. Houseworth, your reaction when you heard former governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson, is running for president?
You know, he had a pretty impressive record as governor, not pretty well known outside of the South. But what I do remember about him are two things that he pushed. He did push Medicaid expansion, which is fairly rare for Republican governors. And he also, he really pushed transportation. Outside of that, I don't remember hearing a whole lot about him, and I haven't sensed a huge amount of, but it is interesting. He is someone who is, who's well known in Arkansas. Outside Arkansas doesn't have a whole lot of name recognition, but he was one of the first Republican governors to really push Medicaid expansion, which now Governor Parson has done in part because of the Missouri Supreme Court decision. All
right, he's 72, but if I'm going to vote for a 70-ish year-old white guy, I'm going to vote for Trump. I just am. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where a lot of Republicans, I mean, I haven't heard a whole lot from him just because I don't care and because I don't think he stands a chance. But he'd have to distinguish himself from Trump. And I don't know that he, and I think that's the difficulty, other than Vivek Ramaswamy, who is kind of like light everything on fire, which I kind of like that tactic. And I think Nikki Haley's come out a little bit differently on Trump on some of the entitlement programs. I don't see Pence saying a whole lot different. I think Pence's tactic is let's focus on the future and not on the past, which Trump does seem to be a lot focused on the past, but I don't think that's enough to get him over the hump of distinguishing him from Trump. And so I think if I was going to vote, if I liked Mike Pence or I liked Asa Hutchinson, I'm still probably voting for Trump.
So he's 72 right now. He would be almost 74 if he were to be elected president. 4 years later, you assume he's going to run for. He's 78. He's the same. He's on the same trajectory as Joe Biden. So people that go out and criticize Joe Biden, it's not just his age. The dude is losing it. And here's what you do to prove that point. Go back and watch videos from him from even a year ago, 2 years ago, and watch videos from him today. Joe Biden, every time he gets out there, it looks like he's been hit with a cattle prod before they prop him up in front of the podium there.
Watch videos of him in politics, in elected office before Hannah was born, and you could maybe understand why people voted for him. Right?
And he was kind of, in a way, he really was a moderate Democrat in the Senate, voted for the crime bill. Bill Clinton, quite frankly, governed from the center, especially after his reelection. But President Biden's policies obviously have moved to the left, specifically in the last several years. But I do think it is interesting seeing Asa Hutchinson in, but he's going to have an uphill battle. How's he going to be able to raise the money? But he is someone who we'll certainly keep an eye on.
I think the other interesting thing is that as the field kind of, starts to actually become public and official, as people officially start to announce, how do various states and other politicians start to break down? And I remember when Trump first announced, you remember how divided Missouri was, even among our state house. And I think that will be really interesting. Who decides that they need to distance themselves from Trump? Who decides they need to kind of be in the business camp with Ramaswamy? I mean, do you remember? I mean, it was really, there were various fundraisers across Missouri, and it starkly divided the legislature and the political consultants about who was in whose camp in that presidential race. And there were some, I think, hurt feelings and some people who were like, "Oh, I really picked the wrong candidate there." And so I think that is what I'm waiting to see, is who picks what candidate as we go forward.
Even in talk
Rubio
radio.
that year, actually.
Yeah, so even here, 2015, 2016, we caught flack for not backing Ted Cruz and for not backing Marco Rubio. Everybody hated, in the Republican Party, hated Trump. And now here we're talking about him 8 years later for very different things. Elections matter. As a matter of fact, County Clerk Steve Korsmeyer joins us 7:35. What do you need to know before you go to the polls? And Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer making his first. Everybody on the show started laughing. He's making his first appearance since the famous/infamous visit last month in which Matt Gaetz, explosive congressman from Florida, got us to go viral. Blaine Luetkemeyer, it was some comments that he'd made hesitantly on the show last month. He's here, craziness in D.C. this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS. There was Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. Hausworth is back.
It's good to see you. Good to be back. Thanks.
John Marsh, any hot takes on Hutchinson announcing he's running for president?
Here we go again, just another one in the mix. I don't think he has a shot.
Producer Hannah is
Hello.
here. Any strong thoughts on Mr. Asa Hutchinson announcing he's running for president of the United States of America?
Meh.
Yeah. Man, crazy on Friday.
I don't care if you put it on the day before the storm, it's going to be damaged. There's not a shingle out there that would take this hail.
40 roofs today since 8 o'clock this morning. And I'm going to say there's probably thousands of roofs that are damaged.
Crazy hailstorm Friday. It was interesting driving around town over the rest of the weekend. Cars driving around with busted windshields from the hail. I have hail damage on my hood and on my roof. My car is so old, it's almost as old as producer Hannah.
Now you can finally get that Ford Bronco you've been eyeing.
All right, the Ford Bronco or the electric Hummer. And I won't buy the electric Hummer. Two main reasons. Number one, it's electric.
Number two, it's expensive.
Like $112,000. So I ain't buying that. But my car is so old, it's likely they're probably going to have to total it. So I was in my house Friday afternoon, it was about 3:30, 3:45, something like that. And you could tell it was starting to get nasty. And then the hail hit, and I'm sitting in my back patio. There's a sliding glass door, and I'm sitting not on the back patio. I'm sitting inside, but I'm sitting inside just watching it. Finally, probably only for the second time in my life of having lived in the Midwest and along the Gulf Coast, only the second time in my life, I sought shelter in an interior space in the house. I started freaking out. So I go into the bathroom because not only is it hailing huge, it's blowing this way and blowing that way. And I'm thinking, I've heard this is what happens prior to a tornado. It gets really nasty. And then it gets quiet. So then I run into the bathroom. So I'm hiding out in the bathroom. And then I thought, what if we do get a tornado and the house collapses? So then I run to the freezer to go get some tennis shoes because I'm thinking in case I need to, be in survival mode. So I run to the freezer, get my tennis shoes, and I go back in the bathroom when I'm hunkered up. And then I'm like, I better have some water, too, in case it's a survival situation. So then I run back out to the kitchen and go get some water. So here I am, Feel Good Friday afternoon, about 3:45 in the afternoon, hunkered in my bathroom with some tennis shoes and bottles of water, and I'm in it for the long haul.
In a true survival situation, I think you're supposed to fill your bathtub up with water.
Really?
Have you not heard that?
I'd never heard that.
Yeah, if your pipes bust, then you have water,
In case I want to bathe in the midst of a catastrophe?
No, to drink
it.
Wow.
Yeah, Hannah's right. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
I've not heard that, but that is interesting. The interesting thing about the storms is that some areas just had sunshine. Here we had baseball-sized hail. And Abby Landwehr, our news partner at KMIZ, is reporting that there were some out-of-state contractors that showed up this weekend, out-of-state license plates, in our local roofing companies, some from Lake Ozark, some from Jeff City and Columbia, are warning just be very careful, because what they basically do, some of them, is follow the storm in, and then if there's something wrong with the project, you can't get a hold of them. So they're really urging people to at least consider local, but a lot of damage.
See, my car is in the place where I was kind of crossing my fingers that I was in the line of fire because my car is so old. I was like, ooh, this isn't such a bad deal for me. But it varied widely because I was in South Columbia, and I know some parts of South Columbia got it really bad. Where I was, I mean, it was loud enough that I was in a public place and people raced to the windows to just watch it come down. And I mean, it wasn't quite golf ball where I was, but yeah, I mean, it was significant. And it's so rare. I think maybe in my lifetime I've only seen hail like that 3 times, 4 times, maybe.
We saw our listeners will remember this, Stephanie, September of 2012, and normally it's a spring, but it was the day before the Georgia game in 2012. A huge hailstorm hit, I believe, on a Friday here in Columbia, and it hit Jeff City as well. There was also a big hailstorm in March a couple years ago in Jefferson City.
Yeah, I remember that one.
It destroyed so much of the west side of town. And the only other thing I'd mention is we had lots of severe thunderstorm warnings on Friday. One tornado warning, that was in Fayette, Howard County. That came down about 3:30 in the afternoon, but tornadoes did not. There's no reports of any serious damage.
Massive tornado in Arkansas, in Little Rock. I just showed Stephanie a picture of my sliding glass door, and the screen to it it's like ripped. It's to shreds. In a couple of places, the hail broke the screen door, and then it streaked it. It just did all kinds of crazy stuff to it.
I remember my sister was staying with me during COVID, and that's when that big storm came through Jefferson City. And so my friends were texting me, it's headed your way. And I thought, oh no, I don't have a 3-car garage. So we were out there. I think I took a carpet and like a moving blanket, and we were just trying to get something over her windows because people in Jefferson City, the hail went through, here, went through
people's... It was like 3-inch hail in that 2020 storm.
Right through people's windshields. And she's saying, I have to drive home tomorrow. And so we were like, if we could just pad it enough. And so we were out there just trying to cover the car.
I hope next time you go to D.C. and you're hanging out with people like Tom Cotton and Ted Cruz, you share that story about, well, one time in a hailstorm in Missouri, we threw old blankets on top, because they'll go, that's the most Missouri thing ever. Be careful of those fly-by-night companies. Better Business Bureau, bbb.org. They have a lot of good resources, and at least one local company I know that you can trust, Show Como Premium Exteriors, when it comes to that kind of stuff, because it was remarkable. Like at the top of my neighborhood, 2 different signs were all of a sudden planted in the ground like campaign signs. Hey, we're contractors, we're roofers. Saw the cars all around. Crazy. Be careful. Coming up, we are going to be doing your daily DC rundown. What do you have for us, Steph?
Well, some folks are coming to the defense of an app you might not expect.
But who is it that's coming to the defense? No, great story. It's coming up 5 minutes from now. Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
Is there anything short of an outright ban that you would support?
No, I don't see it at this point. Even the White House last week reports were that they went to TikTok and said, look, you either have to divest Chinese ownership, or face a potential ban.
Brendan Carr is with the FCC. They're talking about TikTok, saying, no, I don't see anything acceptable less than an outright ban. That's getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
All you have to do is watch one of these congressional hearings to know that they have no idea what the internet is or these apps are. And I think let's go back to the fact that ByteDance, who they really should be concerned about, owns like a lot of other apps besides TikTok that no one's talking about.
But China.
But China. But at least some members of Congress are saying, wait, TikTok really is important. And so certain members of Congress, they all happen to be on the Democratic side, are saying this is how we reach voters. Representative Jeff Jackson out of North Carolina was using it to talk about the fight over the debt limit. Representative Robert Garcia out of California was talking to members of the LGBTQ plus community. And I think a lot of them are using it in elections to get votes out of the youth, right? Is that what we're missing here?
Wait, is this a communist high-tech digital tool used to influence elections in the United States of America?
And Representative Dean Phillips in Minnesota, I think, said the quiet part out loud. He said there's no more robust and expeditious way to reach young people in the United States than TikTok. And what we know is young people tend to vote for Democrats. And so I think Democrats are getting nervous and they're saying, hey, this is how we're getting people out to vote. And I'm thinking if you know someone in Missouri that's using it like politically, let us know. Text us because, I know the Boone County Clerk, Brianna Lennon, uses TikTok to talk about elections, but I don't know many other Missouri elected officials or either for campaigns or on the official side that are using TikTok, but I'd be interested to develop a list.
You haven't seen State Rep Rudy Veit's TikTok page? Oh, it's killer.
Wow.
Killer.
Nope, I have not seen that one.
You seen it, John?
I think I missed that one.
I don't think there are a lot of folks in Missouri using it, but maybe I'm mistaken. I do think maybe Representative Crystal Quaid has one. She's a Democrat, but I don't know. And there was who was the gal up in North? Jess
Piper.
I think she maybe has a TikTok, but again, on the Republican side, I don't know of anyone. I think that is using TikTok. Okay, so Democrats want the TikTok. Republicans don't. It's still a fight, but also we should consider the fact that there are other Chinese apps besides TikTok.
There's a lot of stuff we should be worried about if you want to live your life that way, being in fear constantly of stuff.
Like problems that we've been worried about for a long time. 10 years ago this month, Senator Chuck Schumer declared, we all know that our immigration system is broken and it's time to get to work on fixing it. I think 2013 is the year of immigration reform.
The Gang of Eight. Gosh, I remember how much the people in talk radio hyped this thing.
The last extensive immigration reform package came under President Ronald Reagan in 1986, and then President George H.W. Bush signed a more limited effort 4 years later. So that what that means is now our border agents who are down there are basically enforcing laws that are so old. They've got drones, they've got cell phones, they've got all this. The laws they're enforcing are actually back before the internet was even a thing. And so these are laws that we have so much more now, but we haven't reformed the programs. And so yet we're worried about TikTok, but we have major problems from years ago that we have yet to solve. But let's go get TikTok.
And the other thing, now there's a new drug making its way into Missouri that likely comes from Mexico. Coming up, an odd thing, the Missouri state legislature. The thing they're working on, it's one of those you go, oh, that's legal right now. It's coming up about 6:35.
municipal elections.
Dave Korsmeyer?
Steve? Yeah. Are taking place Tuesday.
We're going to be joined by the Cole County Clerk, Dave Korsmeyer.
Why? Steve Korsmeyer. Steve.
Who the hell is Dave Korsmeyer? We're going to be hanging out with the Cole County Clerk, Steve Korsmeyer, as he previews what week might be.
That was Friday.
Just a glimpse into what happens when we record the daily promo every day.
Promoting Cole County Clerk Steve Korsmeyer.
I don't know why I could not say Steve. I kept saying Dave.
You guys needed me in there because I've been knowing Steve for a long time, and I was super sad when he got elected to be the clerk because he used to be my mechanic for years and years. So
and apparently a really good mechanic.
Yeah, but he's also a very good clerk. So
he's joining us 7:35 this morning. A couple of things we might need to know before we head to the polls tomorrow for the municipal election. And didn't we look up to see if there was a Dave Korsmeyer? Who is Dave Korsmeyer? So that was us recording our daily promo on Friday. A little behind the scenes stuff. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
John Marsh is here.
Good morning.
That's producer Hannah.
Good morning. He's a researcher at NASA. I'm sure that's where I knew the name,
so
right?
There is a Dave Korsmeyer, apparently. He's a researcher at NASA. And his brother, Steve, is a clerk in... No, I don't know that they're related. And then Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer, he joins us a little bit after 8 o'clock this morning.
I did vote over the weekend. It felt weird to vote on April Fool's Day. It did. I don't know why.
Probably highly appropriate to get right down to.
It kind of bothered me, but there was like an off-site voting at Ashland at the library, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to run over and take care of that now with this no excuse absentee. Went over, saw Boone County Clerk Brianna Lynn in there, and easy peasy.
I know there's purists that don't like the idea of absentee voting. I'm all about it. Now, I have to temper that because voting too early, I think, what happens if your candidate does something really bad? Do you want your name attached to that vote? But I especially like the no excuse. Listen, if I want to vote today, I shouldn't have to come up with an excuse because chances are, number one, when I give you that excuse, I'm probably lying anyway. You know, my mom's in the hospital. I got to go take care of her. I'm probably lying about why I can't vote on election day anyway. Want to do it today, and if I'm going to make up an excuse, I should be able to do it without having to lie. I should just say because I want to.
I asked her about turnout, and she did say that Ashland was beating Centralia as far as early absentee. So I liked that.
Voting, it matters. Tomorrow, municipal elections. And there's some, besides candidates, hope you know who it is that you're voting for. Columbia School Board race, John Potter, Chuck Basie. School Board race, Jefferson City, I think Brad Bates, Michael Harvey, Scott Hovis are some candidates you could feel comfortable voting for. City Council in Jefferson City, Scott Spencer, Mark Schwartz, Dan Waterman. In Columbia, 5th Ward. He'd be taking the seat of the city's really lone conservative city councilman, and that's Matt Pitzer, Don Waterman. So you'd vote for. And then the other thing, taxes. Taxing the recreational weed. And this is going to be interesting because you have cities that are voting on it and then also counties that are voting on it. How does that work? Do you know? Or am I getting out of your realm of...
I mean, the measure authorizes counties and cities to tax it. So I think almost everybody in mid-Missouri has it on the ballot.
So how does that? So let's say like Cole County, for example. Jefferson City approves the tax, and then Cole County approves the tax.
Does it stack? Is that the question?
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. I'll have to think.
Gary Nolan had one of his guests on Friday talking about that very issue and said it might even end up in court. If both of those pass in Cole County.
I would think it would stack because typically, you know, like sales taxes and other things stack. But I'll look into that.
Tax the tax. That's the next one I'm waiting for because, you know, a lot of these folks, man, tax. We need more money. Let's take it from the people that we serve. Let's tax the tax. Producer Hannah is here. My name is Branden Rathert. 874-9390, 874-9390. Still some interesting things as we get ready for Blaine Luetkemeyer. He's here at 8:10. Some interesting things happening in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Some interesting things happening in our state's capital, too. And by the way, is this a win for Attorney General Mr. Bailey? Planned Parenthood is suing him now. Just, weeks in office? Somebody's already suing the guy.
It's a badge of honor, I think.
That's a win. Lawsuit filed Friday in St. Louis accuses Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey of politically motivated investigations of transgender care provided by Planned Parenthood, St. Louis region in southwest Missouri. So in other words, if you go and you want to look into something where people are performing life-altering surgery on kids, people under the age of 18. How much did you know before you were 18? And that's why I can't believe it.
How much did I know, or how much did I think I knew?
Boom. By the way, so we're in April now as you get ready for summer hiring. Make sure you hire teenagers while they know everything. But you're right. We think we know everything. We think, man, when I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be a firefighter. I thought I wanted to do this. I thought I wanted to wear parachute pants for the rest of my life because they were cool for a few weeks.
You thought a mullet was a good idea.
Thought a mullet was a good idea. Thought clip-on earrings was cool.
From like Claire's or what?
Did you have one of those chain wallets?
No, gosh.
Oh, that's where you draw the line.
Cargo pants?
Trucker wallet. No. Wore cargo pants. Did all the crazy things as a kid.
Hammer pants.
MC Hammer pants. Oh, yeah. So the idea, as kids, we did stupid things. And as a kid to say, hey, I want surgery to perform into a gender that I'm not, that's crazy. And I wonder, too, if they're going to start going after parents, some of this stuff. I think that's crazy. By the way, there's also, and this is one of those I wonder, I didn't know that like this was still in effect legal. Missouri lawmakers supporting legislation banning pelvic exams on unconscious patients. Apparently, it's a real issue. A lot of these folks, they get a pelvic exam while they're knocked out or whatever the procedure is. And then people, and one lawmaker, Hannah Kelly, said, quote, I've heard from Missourians who've learned only after the fact that they've been subjected to these exams. Understandably, they feel very violated. And for those with a history of sexual abuse, they were particularly traumatized. Senate voted 33-0, so it was unanimous in the Senate. And they found something that they can agree on. Caleb Rowden, did you see Caleb Rowden's tweet over the weekend?
Yeah, it's going to get messy in the State House this week, I think.
And this has to do with DEI language, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it looked like we were on smooth sailing to say, as a matter of fact, Dr. Moon Choi, system president, last week, 2 weeks ago, said we're getting rid of this language because it really does not do anything. We want to keep the intent of what it does, but we want to take the language out. Caleb Rowden, state senator, tweeted over the weekend, Missouri Republicans believe diversity is a strength in our workforce and in our educational institutions. We believe being forced to adhere to positions on diversity, equity, and inclusion is a condition of employment or entry into an educational institution. Short-sighted and contrary to the values DEI advocates say they wish to advance. Then he goes on, with all that being said, you hear the big but coming, but we can't pass this in the Senate. He says, while well-intentioned, it's overly broad, would result in billions of dollars in cuts to hospitals, healthcare facilities, colleges, and universities. Did you hear what Ron DeSantis said DEI stands for?
They say it's about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but in reality, it's using the university's administrative bureaucracy to impose an ideological agenda. It's not, DEI stands for, the way it's practiced, division, exclusion, and indoctrination, and that has no part in our public institutions.
And I think that works. Hence the distaste for these nationwide. Florida trying to become another state to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion statements. And, people will say, oh, you're not for diversity, equity, and inclusion? No, we're not for diversity, equity, and inclusion statements that say you have to do this or you have to think a certain way. Or if you don't think like us, then you don't get admission here. Those are some of the things being worked on in Jefferson City. By the way, Dow closed up 415 points on Friday, coming up 8:25. Morning Bell business news. Little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you, and I hope I'm not stealing any of your thunder here. Last week, we kind of detailed some of the big companies that are massive layoffs. Walmart, Amazon laying off thousands of people, financial institutions, and now the latest one. I hope this isn't going to be in your daily DC rundown at 8:25. Good. Fast food restaurant. Folks that work for this fast food restaurant got a memo late last week and said, hey, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, why don't you just go ahead and work from home? And everybody initially, I'm guessing, Sweet. We get to work from home Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then you read the rest of the memo, and it says, well, because we're going to be laying off a whole bunch of people.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
We want to be able to do it privately with you on Zoom. So McDonald's, and they're calling this restructuring. Well, we're restructuring. You notice how many companies are restructuring amidst recession fears?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're all wanting to restructure right now because it's inflation, recession.
This reminds me of like American Idol, where they separate people into different rooms, and then like everybody in that room goes home, and then everybody in this room goes home, and they're like, "You're all in." They're like, "Hey, you're all." So you're looking at the people that you're in the same group with. Like, is this person good or bad? Are they going home? Because I'm probably in the same boat as they are.
Well, the thing that's frustrating is because you go to like the big chain grocery stores, and there are fewer and fewer actual cashiers anymore. Everything is automated, and they're doing the same at these fast food restaurants.
I went to Aldi. I thought Aldi was like, their thing was like they had fast checkers and they had checkers. No checkers at Aldi this weekend.
It's all computerized too? Self-service?
Not a single checker anywhere to be seen. I was shocked. I didn't know that was their thing now.
So I like to go to Mosher's.
See, the Aldi checkers are fast, but they're so fast that you almost have to try to catch your groceries in the cart.
That's true.
So McDonald's laying off thousands of employees. They're not sure. They're saying we need to firm up for what's happening right now. And I'm guessing part of it, too, is this what happens when you insist paying low-level skilled workers $15 an hour because everybody needs to make more money, and everybody makes more money, and the cost of Gary Nolan covers this stuff masterfully on the Gary Nolan Show weekdays at 9. Same thing. We saw Disney layoffs. They are hurting. People think because that's because of their wokeness. Anybody watch the CMTs last night?
No.
must have missed that one.
For some reason, I think, we diss award shows like the Oscars and the Golden Globes and any of the music shows. For some reason, I have it in my mind that, and we talk about those shows like nobody cares, as evidenced by the ratings year after year continue to get worse. And we're all adults, so we don't pay attention to award shows. But I guess I think that's, since it's country music, maybe more people pay attention.
I usually do. I love country music, and some of my favorites won some awards. Jelly Roll.
Jelly Roll. By the way, I dig Jelly Roll. Like, you could hear his music on like a rock alternative station or a country station.
Yeah, I saw him in concert, I think, in Illinois last year. He's so good.
The big winner. Well, I was hoping, and I don't pay attention to this stuff. I don't even follow country music, but I know Carrie Underwood has the record for like most CMT awards.
You just think she's pretty.
And I was hoping last night that she was going to win some more to break the award. She didn't. Also on the TV, I've been noticing there's a trailer for a movie about Michael Jordan. I don't know if it's about Michael Jordan or his shoes. Why this movie is getting so much buzz, we've got to cover that 5 minutes from now, and we'll leave you with the song from Jelly Roll.
crime you can have is to be a Republican. Whether you're a parent at a PTA meeting, labeled a domestic terrorist, or the former president of the United States, Democrats are going to come after you any way they can. And I think people are rightfully upset.
She's chair of the Republican National Committee, Ronna McDaniel, reacting to the Trump arraignment. He is apparently going to be turning himself in Tuesday. He leaves today about 11 o'clock our time, flying from Florida to New York. And apparently everything we're saying, and I don't know why this is so important, doesn't get in my way, but it's fun. They're saying he's not going to be handcuffed. I will bet a week's worth of Hannah's salary. He wants to be cuffed. He wants that photo op. He wants it. Frankly, I think it'd be pretty cool, too.
I don't think the totals are out yet, but I think the preliminary totals of the fundraising numbers since the announcement of the indictment are insane. And I'm sure it'll just keep ticking upward, especially if we see a mugshot or handcuffs or something else.
And what are his polling numbers doing? First set of polling numbers come out. Polling done since he has been arraigned. So how is that shaping the polling? We're going to do that polling for what it's worth coming up at 7:10 this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Brian Houseworth, producer Hannah is here. As soon as I'm watching TV over the weekend, there's a trailer for an interesting new movie about Michael Jordan. I don't know if it's about Michael Jordan. Is it a movie about Michael Jordan, or is it a movie about Air Jordan tennis shoes? Is it a movie about tennis shoes or Michael Jordan?
It's a sneakerhead movie. It's a shoe movie.
It's a shoe movie, and apparently it's funny because a lot of us now, it's just something we take for granted. But back in the day, so Nike was just pretty much, it was a running shoe back in the day. And if you had Nikes, you knew right away, oh, you must be on the track team.
Oh, boy, this is going to reignite this debate.
But anyhow, this guy had this idea like, hey, why don't we build an entire shoe line around this young guy that nobody knew by the name of Michael Jordan?
Yeah, and it's one of the first bigger films out of this new production company run by Ben Affleck and who else am I? Matt Damon. Love both of them, so I'm very excited. So it's got a lot of like popular stars. But yeah, this Sonny Vaccaro, played by Matt Damon, is a shoe salesman, and he, I think the trailer shows him going to Michael Jordan's home when he's still a rookie and being like, "We're going to sign you and do this deal," and everyone's like, "No one cares about Nike at all." Was that? It says it's based on it, but. It says it's based on a true story, and that's how it went down, but it's so hard to believe, but I think it's interesting, and I'm obsessed with business wars and business competition, and so I just think it's fascinating, that one salesperson got this idea and it worked, and so I always love kind of hearing those stories.
And nobody believed in the guy. Nobody believed in his idea except for him. Ben Affleck talking about the movie.
You had guys showing up at people's houses with briefcase of money and sign on this piece of paper and you can play for our team, because I heard a lot of stories like that. And so don't go around. The agent to the family has a history that's rooted in real exploitation.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah.
So saying that's kind of back in the day, you just go door to door, some of these athletes, and try to rep them. You talk about movies that are based on true stories. I know it's several years old now, but Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie about Freddie Mercury, that movie is really, really good, and apparently it's really accurate. And if you haven't seen the movie yet, at the end of the movie, they do an entire, almost per movement, they do an entire remake of the 1985 famous performance by Queen at Live Aid. And you go back and watch the Live Aid performance compared to and it is dead on.
Yeah, this one is one I'm looking forward to, especially with, the name, image, likeness stuff coming up.
Pretty interesting. First polling numbers since Trump has been indicted. We have those for you. The results coming up at 7:10.
what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
The early indications politically are positive for the former president. His campaign announced last night, since the indictment on Thursday, they have raised $4 million, and a quarter of those donations coming from people who have never donated to former President Trump before.
I love that. To me, that's the most important thing. Now you're getting folks involved that have never donated to Trump or maybe any other political candidates in the past, people that have never donated to political candidates. A fourth of that, $1 million raised by people that are saying, hey, this is BS. And I feel really good about that, because when I hear things like this, Fox talked to some people in Waco the previous weekend, whenever Trump was there doing a rally, and Fox was talking to people at the Trump rally about what they thought at the time what an impending indictment would potentially do for him.
I think his enemies are starting to realize that, and I think they're going to end up backing down from all these ridiculous charges against him.
No, absolutely not. I think that his popularity would only be gained by that move on the deep state.
So if they try to make him do a perp walk, even the Democrats will vote for Donald Trump.
If they make him do the perp walk, even Democrats vote for Trump. I don't know if I agree with that.
You think?
I don't know. You may be going a little overboard there. Maybe drinking the Kool-Aid with no sugar.
Wishful thinking, perhaps.
Yeah. But still, I think important. $250,000, $4 million raised in a matter of days for Trump following the indictment news, and then $1 million of that from folks that have never donated to Trump in the past. And I think that is key, because I don't know that I'm buying the stuff like this guy saying even Democrats will vote for the guy. Polling. So we've been highlighting some polling numbers. Polling for what it's worth. First poll post-indictment is from Yahoo YouGov. Trump, DeSantis. DeSantis, by the way, still has not declared he's running for presidency. Trump's lead over DeSantis has grown. It's tripled the previous result from the same survey. He has a 57-31 lead over DeSantis. And this is Yahoo YouGov. I don't know how much stake I put in a polling that has Yahoo in the name. But I thought that's interesting. So more folks are saying yes. So maybe more folks are realizing that, hey, this is a travesty of justice, whatever you want to call it. This idea that you would go something, the feds, in the years that this has been going on, the feds have passed this up twice. This is the thing with the money to Stormy Daniels and a Playboy model, because the prosecutor in New York wants to say, well, this was a campaign donation. It helped the campaign of President Trump, and it should have been declared. The feds have looked at this more than once and said, yeah, this is BS. You've had other courts that have looked at it and said, yeah, there's nothing here. But you've got this legitimately Soros-backed DA, Alvin Bragg, in New York that's going after this guy. And it's helping. It's helping his polling.
Mueller also looked at this and did not pursue it. Yeah, the polls certainly have showed increased numbers for former President Trump, Branden, and Governor DeSantis has more or less said that he is not going to cooperate if there is any sort of extradition. We'll see what happens on that. There is, I've seen an ad the last couple of days, and it's airing on Fox News Channel, and it's got a reference to Make America Great. You can't really tell who it is because it just comes up very at the end, but there is an attack ad on DeSantis that's running on the Fox News Channel that I have noticed. I don't know if other listeners have, basically saying he has voted to raise the retirement age, critical of him on Social Security and things like that. But some of their analysts, I have heard them say they do believe those two could come together. We'll see on that. But it will be interesting to see this arraignment tomorrow in New York and how that goes down.
And I think one of the more interesting things is to actually see the charges and the indictment papers themselves, which we expect to see, I believe, Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And so we've heard that there's going to be 34 counts. I think I think largely we think it's just going to be the same old stuff, because I think what people think is it's for every payment, it's just going to be the same charge. One interesting hypothesis that I heard over the weekend was maybe, and again, I don't practice criminal law, so I have to research it a lot. But in general, these charging documents are pretty boring. They just say, this is what happened here, the basic facts. But someone actually hypothesized maybe they would charge conspiracy, and in that way, that's one of the things that they said is kind of like a speaking indictment, in which they would be able to tell more of a story in the charging document and include more of background and get more of the fluffy stuff around the Trump indictment. And so, I'll be, and then obviously if it's a conspiracy, it involves more than one person. So then who else would be the named party? So really that's what I'm waiting for, is that actual document and to read what they put in there.
Yeah, and the Secret Service is also involved in this. I mean, it's not easy to bring a former president into court. He's not going to be handcuffed. That has been reported over the weekend, but we will see. And he maintains his innocence. And his defense attorney, I saw an interview with him, and he said they're going to show some statements from Michael Cohen saying, contradicting what's in that indictment. So again, We'll see what Mr. Bragg has in the paperwork tomorrow, probably.
And with anything Cohen says, can't they say, well, Cohen's a convicted felon? You can't believe anything he says. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, producer Hannah. Asa Hutchinson over the weekend, former governor of Arkansas, announced he is running for president. He was asked about whether or not you think Trump should drop out.
We have to talk about the leadership of America in the world. First of all, the office is more important than any individual person. And so for the sake of the office of the presidency, I do think that's too much of a sideshow and distraction, and he needs to be able to concentrate on his due process, and there is a presumption of innocence.
So he's trying to say he should drop out, but he's trying to be nice about, Trump, you should really take some time and really focus on this. He's trying to do it the nice avenue. Trump should be... And I'm guessing $1 million, Trump will not drop out of the race. Does Asa Hutchinson announcing he's running for president? It doesn't do anything for me. There's nothing there that I go, oh, that's a viable alternative. That's a good option, and not a better option in my book. Not a better option to Trump, to any of them right now. Number one, he's just another old white guy. Not that there's anything wrong with being an old guy, but it just doesn't do anything on the scale of like a Vivek Ramaswamy, younger guy. He's on fire and can agree with what he says. DeSantis also. Asa Hutchinson, 72 years old. By the time he were to take office, if he were to win the presidency, he would be 74 years old. He would be 82. By the time he got done with the second term. Yeah,
he is someone, some of our listeners who grew up and maybe have spent some time in southern Missouri will know him. I mean, he is a big name in Arkansas and kind of a traditional Republican. I mean, I talked last hour, he promoted Medicaid expansion because he felt like it would help the hospitals there. The other thing he did do is transportation was a big priority. They have Walmart down there in Fayetteville, and they also have some other big companies. I mean, some major companies are headquartered in the northwest part of that state. And the highways were not in the best of shape. He did help that. And there's actually a highway in southwest Missouri that goes into Arkansas. It's a new interstate. It's called I-49. You probably in literally Governor Parson and Governor Hutchison before he left office, they actually met at the border there and had a bill signing ceremony for that. It is a big deal. But Branden, to your question, the path forward for him to be able to raise the money, it'd be very difficult for him. It really would be.
874-9390, 874-9390 is Asa Hutchinson announcing he's running for president. Does that do anything for you? It doesn't do anything for me. I don't go, oh, that's interesting. Not what I said. And talking about boring old guys running for presidency, I think the only thing more boring than that is talking about old boring guys running for presidency. Is everybody okay after the storms Friday? Woo!
No, I was crossing my fingers that the hail would have hit my old car because I really need a new car.
Total it out.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed.
See our forecast for late tomorrow night.
What's happening tomorrow?
More of the same potentially, evening or even for the whole overnight rotation. Potential for heavy storms, more hail, damaging winds.
Where you were Friday, did you get tagged, Marsh?
Just got the storms, didn't see any hail, but boy, oh boy, it was windy.
Yeah, it was windy and the hail, and it was bad. Damaged my car. Apparently going to need a new roof. Stephanie, are you comfortable holding that up to the camera? Next time you get a hailstorm that hits, Stephanie has a solution for you. Put some old moving blankets onto your car.
And a welcome mat. So when the hailstorm came through Jefferson City during COVID, I was in Ashland, and folks were like, "It's headed your way." And my sister's car was there, and I thought, I don't have a garage to pull our car into. So yeah, there's a tire on the top and moving blankets and a welcome mat, and I think one of those car rugs that like little kids drive little cars on. Anything we could find. We were just trying to preserve her windows.
And the windows didn't break.
Well, and the hail missed us, apparently. Hail's weird. Well, and here, I mean, on Friday, it was weird. Like, there are little pockets where it was really bad, some spots where it was kind of bad, and then other spots where it was totally sunny. I mean, my husband and I were, 15 miles apart, and he's like, I didn't see anything, and I thought, I saw some stuff.
So I'm kind of where I am. I'm specifically in Boone County, like WW and Rolling Hills Road, like going out towards Fulton, and talking to some other folks that live not too far from me. Like, oh yeah, we got nothing. And one of the more eerie parts about it, besides the size and the wind was driving it, it was like you go to a fireworks show and every single firework is a dud. It was kind of like that. It was so loud because you had these large chunks of ice hitting the grass, hitting the concrete, hitting your house, hitting your screen door, and it was so loud and it was constant. It was this barrage of noise, and you're in the house looking out at it. Like I went to the innermost place in the house with some shoes and some water because I thought, man, if I get if the house collapses, I might be here for a few days.
Just curious, how much water did you take with you? Because I have a feeling it was like one bottle.
Yeah, I had this.
Yeah.
One bottle of water and a pair of shoes.
It made me glad I was indoors because, believe it or not, I've been outside twice during hailstorms, and it hurts. Like, it is... Have you ever been outside during a hailstorm? It is not... One time I was whitewater rafting, and we had to, like, run for cover. Another time I was watching a rugby game, like in a giant field, and luckily there was like an ROTC tower, so we went and like tried to flatten ourselves against it to try to get out of the hail, but it made me glad I was indoors.
And please do watch out for shady business dealings. The other thing that struck me, so driving around on Saturday, seeing the number of people who had busted windshields from the hail, and then by Sunday there were 2 signs at the top of my neighborhood, hey, roofing and all this. Be careful. Better Business Bureau, Missouri, they're warning folks, hey, they're out. These people that have nefarious purposes, they're out.
Yeah, 2 things you can check. You can check the Better Business Bureau. You can also get on the Secretary of State's website and check folks' business registrations here in Missouri.
Coming up, what's hot with Hannah? What do you have for us today, Hannah?
I don't even know how to appropriately preview this story, but there's an item that's sold out in Australia currently for the first time ever.
What is it? First time ever in Australia. It's sold out. Hannah doesn't know how to introduce it. We'll try to introduce that. Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:26.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
Now, I said I didn't know how to preview this appropriately because this is one of those like borderline stories I'm not sure we should be talking about.
Your mom listens to this station, Hannah.
I know, and I'm breaking my golden rule of if I have to ask if it's okay, it's probably not. But there's been an item that has sold out in Melbourne, Australia for the very first time. And it is a sex doll named Donna. And essentially, it's the trendy thing to do right now to put this $5,500 doll in the passenger seat of your car so that you can use the carpool lane.
That's why they're buying the sex doll for carpooling.
Right. And yeah, I'm like a $5,500 doll.
You think there'd be a cheaper option?
Right? Right? Like, why not just get like a mannequin or anything, really? Anything that you can put a ball cap on and make it look somewhat realistic to use the carpool lane.
If that's the only reason you're actually buying the sex doll.
But then, like, are these dolls just, like, sitting there when your car's parked? Can you imagine, like, walking through, like, the parking lot and being like, whoa, what in the world? I did roll up one time, or I didn't roll up, this other car rolled up, and and it was an Uber, and, you know, the guy's driving, and in the passenger seat is a life-size full-on skeleton, and I was like, this is, like, probably one of those rules, like, don't take a drink from someone you don't know, like don't get in a car with a skeleton. But it was Las Vegas and it was October, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna give the guy a pass, I'll get in the Uber. But I thought that was kind of fun.
The website selling these dolls, I guess one of the promotional photos is the doll like behind the driver's seat, you know, pretending to drive. And the theory is that that might have inspired folks to do this, but the fact that enough people thought this was a good idea to sell the doll out is what boggles my mind.
How about the marketing people for the doll company? Hey, we're not selling enough dolls. I know. Let's sell them for something that they were totally not intended for. We'll market it that way, and it'll work. And apparently it is working, and they're sold out.
They are. They are sold out for the first time ever.
In some of those bigger cities where they have the carpool lane, you can get pulled over for only having one person in your car. They expend police resources to watch and make sure you have at least two people in some of those carpool lanes in some of the bigger cities. Again, a mannequin or any other kind of dummy, like a Joe Biden in your front seat, that would work.
Some type of cheap inflatable.
Yeah.
I know when we went skiing, there was like close family parking, and I was like, if I didn't have a van full of kids, I would have bought some, you know, or whatever to get that close parking because it was worth it, really.
There were lots of times on Mizzou's campus, if I was running late or I had a really long walk, sometimes the $10 parking ticket I might have gotten was going to be worth it.
I've done that before, too, when I'm in downtown Jefferson City. I'm like, I'll take the ticket, man. That's fine. I'm willing to pay whatever it is to park here. Tomorrow we go to the polls, municipal election day, big issues.
Steve Korsmeyer?
Steve. Yeah. For taking place Tuesday.
We're going to be joined by the Cole County Clerk, Dave Why, Steve? Steve Korsmeyer. Steve.
Who the hell is Dave Korsmeyer?
We're going to be hanging out with the Cole County Clerk, Steve Korsmeyer, as he previews what week might be.
Steve Korsmeyer, clerk,
Man.
Cole County, joining us now. Do you have any relatives named Dave, Steve?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, because
sorry, Steve.
Producer has it in her mind that the Cole County Clerk, his name is Dave Korsmeyer. And Steve, we actually did find a Dave Korsmeyer.
Yeah, he's a researcher for NASA, so you can see where I would get confused.
Welcome into welcome into the show. Tomorrow, municipal elections. Cole County Clerk Steve Korsmeyer joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Two big things we need to know before we head to the polls tomorrow, Steve.
Yes. Make sure you bring your photo ID.
Yeah, and that's about it?
That's about it, really. There's a lot of races, so be prepared. Make sure you know your candidates and your issues. A lot of school board issues. There's, a few villages have some races, and then there's the the bond issue with the Jeff City Public Schools beyond there.
And do you, because a lot of folks, and I get separate of the opinion, because here's what we get a lot here, Steve, is we'll get people calling the station, hey, who am I supposed to vote for in the Jefferson City City Council race? Who am I supposed to vote for in the Columbia Public School Board race? And I'll say this is who I'm comfortable with, but do you have a landing spot if people want to see exactly what it is that they are going to be voting on before they go to the polls tomorrow?
So it was in the Jeff City paper yesterday, and you can also go to our website and see a sample ballot. You can go to the Secretary of State's website and look up your address and your name and everything, and they can give your voting precinct and your specific ballot, which one you'll be voting on. So that's helpful.
All right. Our guest this morning, Steve Korsmeyer. He is the clerk in Cole County.
Steve, talk to us. Both Jefferson City and the county proper have separate but equal, I guess, 3% additional marijuana sales taxes. If those two pass, how does that work? Will that add 6% more to the cost of that for folks?
Not necessarily. The way I understand it, you can't double tax. So if you're in the city limits and you buy it, it's a 3% tax. If you're in the county, it's a 3% tax. So it doesn't double.
All right. And when we show up tomorrow, really just ID, that's really the biggest thing we need to know. There's no hoops we got to jump through, no last-minute surprises that we're going to find at the polling places tomorrow.
No, everything's set up, ready to go. Just wanted to remind people that the photo ID is still required. That law hasn't been changed, so just make sure you bring your photo ID with you. I can't think of anything else. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. Won't have any storms roll through. Everything will go well.
All right, Steve Korsmeyer, Cole County Clerk.
Quick, Steve, maybe a prediction on turnout.
We had last April, we had 13%, so I'm going with 12% this year. Hopefully I'll be close.
All right, 13%. That's the turnout we're hoping for in Cole County as we get ready for elections all across mid-Missouri, Callaway, Montauk, Boone, Randolph counties. Mr. Korsmeyer, anything you'd like to add before we let you go?
Nope, that's it. If anybody has any questions, they can call our office today, even on Election Day. If you run into issues or problems, don't hesitate to call because we really need to know what's going on out there. So we appreciate everybody getting out to vote.
Steve Korsmeyer, we're appreciative of your time here this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Thank you.
All right, 874-9390. 874-9390. There's Stephanie Bell. What was the highlight of your weekend?
That is a hard thing. We took kind of the afternoon off on Friday. It's kids' spring break. They're going back to school today. So we did some fun stuff. We visited that new Como Rocks rock climbing place, and that was kind of fun.
I had to go. I was supposed to go to a birthday party Saturday at one of these places with trampolines and everything, and so I do. I show up, but the kid having the birthday party, I don't see him, and so I'm walking around. I'm like, man, where's my peoples at? And so I took some pictures and said, hey, where all y'all? Well, I got the times wrong.
Wow, go figure.
Right, not a big surprise. But after a while, I felt weird because I'm going to every nook and cranny in this trampoline place, and I'm looking around. And I thought, if people are watching me, this looks weird. Some dude just coming in, scoping out the place.
Yikes. I also took the girls for their spa day. That was super fun. Did you get your spa day this weekend, Branden?
No, still I backed out. Didn't get the feet did.
I'm going to guess that you didn't go back for the birthday party at the correct time either, did you?
Oh, no, I had completely missed it by this point.
Oh, you were late.
I was late.
Oh, man.
I was way late. Marsh, what about you? What was the highlight of your weekend?
Highlight? Well, I got to come in and host the KWS Saturday morning show on Saturday. It was kind of interesting. Talked to some folks about the bond issue and school board, Jefferson City Council, and even heard from Mid-Missouri military historian Jeremy Amick. So
was also bummed over the weekend. You know, the helicopters that crashed at Fort Campbell Army Base. A couple of them from Missouri. One was from Jackson. The other was from Rolla. It's cool hearing you on the Saturday morning show on KWOS. By the way, what's the deal with Lincoln? Oftentimes when we talk about tuition increases, it's Mizzou and it seems it happens fairly often. But what's the parameters regarding the increase in tuition at LU, John?
More of the same, just like all our colleges across Missouri. I think the undergrad per semester for in-state students at Lincoln, if I remember my numbers, is going to go up about $175, and I think their room and board for students that live on campus going up about $100 as well. And that's, check your numbers at a lot of the colleges in Missouri, you'll see much the same thing.
Yeah, and LU is a fine institution. I wonder how do people feel about, is it worth it? Because I know there'll be some of the old schoolers. Yes, because that's what you do. You go to high school, you get out of high school, you go to Europe for the summer, and then you come home and you go to college and you get your degree, and then you get you a spouse and you buy the house with a white picket fence. How do people feel about the cost of college tuition anymore?
Is it worth it? Like, according to the kid who gets it paid for by mom and dad, or the kid who has to pay for it for themselves, or me as the parent who's trying to save for the kid? Right now I'm feeling like it's not worth it because I feel like I've been saving forever, and my financial planner keeps telling me that I have nowhere near enough, and apparently I'm not going to have enough if the prices keep going up. But there was an article in the Journal this weekend that said, now and people's views have changed quite starkly on this and quickly. So we talk about people's views on gay marriage. We talk about people's views on marijuana here in Missouri and how quickly people's views have changed. But in 2013, only about 40% of people said, you know what, it's just not worth it. The cost of the four-year institution isn't worth it. 2023, just 10 years later, more than half, almost 60% are saying, you know what, it's just not worth it.
Even if the government's paying for it, or they're handing out loans that you don't have to pay back, people say, it's still not worth it.
Worth the cost. And even if the government pays for some of it, you're out the time, you're not earning an income while you're in school typically. So, it's your time more than anything. But the question they posed was, when it comes to getting a four-year degree, which of the following statements comes closer to your point of view? And again, almost 60% of people said not worth the cost because people often graduate without specific job skills and with a large amount of debt to pay off.
Hannah, you're a most recent college grad. And I know when you went to school, and hopefully I'm not saying too much, you went kind of like because you felt it's what you're supposed to do, or because you really wanted to study agriculture?
So I started out ag business. But yeah, it just kind of felt like the next step. I didn't know what else I was going to do if I didn't go to college.
And Hannah, by the way, she's been working here since high school, part-time, worked her way.
I started working here my first year of college.
First year of college, and worked her way through college the entire time, and never said anything good about school ever.
I did not have a good time, but it was my own fault.
Well, but you have your degree, and so if this radio thing doesn't work out for you, you can go into the ag business industry.
Right.
Well,
really, I don't
like Warren Buffett.
Like what?
Like Warren Buffett.
Yeah, Warren Buffett. But so Americans, they just don't feel good about it. And you have places like, we talk about Rankin, coming to Ashland and some of these other places that
if you have a hard skill, a skill with your hands. Like we talk about Hannah. Hannah, where honestly, like if you had to go apply for ag business, like do you know where you would even do that?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know enough about ag apparently. But if you could actually work with your hands, like you could, be a plumber or weld or, weld those goalposts back together, or any of these things. I mean, you could find a job in a snap. And so I'm really excited about rank and coming.
A well-paying job.
A really well-paying job. But if you just had a general business degree, you could struggle finding a good paying job, or you might be able to find a better paying job at McDonald's. Or, flipping burgers.
Laying off thousands of people over the next several days, probably because they are being forced to pay people a $15 an hour minimum wage. By the way, tomorrow, weather-wise, John, we might get some more. And I'm glad we tempered this right Friday. Because, listen, calling the weather, it's still, it's like predicting the future, really. And it seems, especially in the winter, whenever they call for great amounts of snowfall, those are the ones where they usually miss, and people get mad at us because, you said there was. Well, we cited the National Weather Service in saying there was going to be a bunch of snow, but Friday, I think we tempered it right with the weather that could potentially happen Friday. That did happen for a large area of mid-Missouri Friday. And what are we expecting tomorrow, John?
Potential for another round of severe storms, some hail, even not out of the question, tornadoes primarily, election evening all the way through the overnight hours. And I was checking up on Friday with some of the numbers. The U.S. is way, way ahead of the average on numbers of tornadoes so far this year.
All right, coming up a few minutes from now, we should do a listener mailbag this morning. We did What's Hot with Hannah at 7:25, and it has to do with these, they're called sex dolls. And people are buying them. The company, which I think it's a brilliant stroke of genius on the part of the company, says, hey, man.
A stroke?
People aren't buying these sex dolls. What do we do? Well, let's market it as, hey, you can put this in your car so you can go through the commuter lanes on the highway and not get tagged. Getting some really interesting emails. Maybe we'll get into those a little bit later this morning. Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer, the madness that is happening in D.C. He's in the hallways there. What's happening? He's going to be joining us at 8:10 this morning.
Sitting Indian style on my granny's floor, watching the CMT music videos over and over and over again all summer long with me and my sister. I remember the first time I saw the music video to I Hope You Dance. I remember the way that it made me feel. And it's just so crazy that, you know, that little girl who was sitting down there watching all those music videos and she had stars in her eyes, I still am that same little girl.
That's Lainey Wilson. She won a couple of awards last night. CMT Awards show. She won for Female Video of the Year, Heart Like a Truck. And she's also, you may have seen her on the TV show Yellowstone. Is anybody still watching Yellowstone? I bailed out after season 4. Not because I'm not interested, but there's a lot of drama. I got enough drama in my own life. I get excited when I get caught up in that stuff.
Your life is not that dramatic.
For me, it is.
You literally had one job on Saturday, and that was to go to a birthday party on time, and you missed it.
Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. To my left this morning, sporting pink slippers, it's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
John Marsh is here.
Yes, sir.
My name is Branden Rathert, and I'm barefoot. But when I am in shoes, I'm in the flip-flops.
Or there's a tornado coming.
Coming. And heavy hail. Watch out for those people in nefarious business practices. I was stunned after the storm Friday. The number of people that already put up signs in neighborhoods. Hey, call so-and-so construction. And not all of them. I'm not saying all of them are bad, but I'm just saying be careful. There's people like Como Premium Exteriors. I know that you could be pretty safe in going to them. We were talking about Americans' confidence in the cost of college. In other words, saying, hey, is the cost of college, I go to school for 4 years and I pay all this money, and I don't know how much on average. What is that, $100,000 at the very least by the time you pay for classes, books, room, board? $100,000 at the very least for 4 years? I don't know.
I think you need more than that.
More than that?
Yeah.
Off the text, 874-9390. But basically, bottom line of the poll is Americans are like, yeah, we just don't think it's really worth it anymore.
Yeah, in 10 years, 10 years ago in 2013, about 40% of people said, I don't think it's worth it. Now, more than 50, almost 60% of people are saying, you know what, don't think it's worth it.
Stuart, off the text, 874-9390. I have a degree. For 80% of college kids, it is a waste of time and money. My friend's son went to work as a union equipment operator the day he turned 18, starting at $35 an hour. Randy says, we have a college savings account for our 3 kids. Biden has made them virtually worthless, as he has done with 401ks. They have nosedived since he took office, lost $5,000. Had to move them into money market funds to stop them from losing money. I dislike Biden.
He didn't say the word dislike.
He said hate. I hate Biden. Yeah.
We'll get into the business news about 8:20, but I will say the first quarter of this year, the markets did pretty well. I was just looking at my own college savings and money markets and everything, and it rebounded a bit. I'm still way down since Biden took office, but I agree, Randy. I've got these same accounts and watching, having to put money in every month, hoping that by the time my kids get to college age, I have enough. And constantly hearing from the experts in my life that I'm not going to get there is frustrating, especially when it feels like I'm doing, it feels like it should be enough. But and then the question is, so I spend my whole life saving for all of this and then give them the education. And then, is it worth it?
The other thing that I think is interesting as it relates to, it's like, have you ever been fishing? Maybe you're in Lake of the Ozarks and you're in this nice cove and you got a leak in the boat and you start trying to throw the water out and you think you're on top of it. Oh, it's working. It's fine. And the water just keeps coming and you keep trying to save yourself and it's an endless process. It doesn't work. That's what it's like for, I think, a lot of these people when they're looking at 401ks and college funds and things like that. It's just frustrating, and I get your frustration. It's just, Chuck says, let's not forget the importance of the school board election candidates. That's right. In Columbia, John Potter, Chuck Basie. In Jefferson City for the Jefferson City School District. Some fine candidates there, including Brad Bates, Michael Harvey, Scott Hovis. You're right, the more local, the more important. What's happening in our nation's capital? Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer, his first visit since the famous/infamous visit last month regarding Matt Gaetz. He's here at 8:10.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
You were thinking about running for president. Have you made a decision? Are you running?
I have made a decision, and my decision is I'm going to run for president of the United States. And the reason, as I've traveled the country for 6 months, I hear people talk about the leadership of our country, and I'm convinced that people want leaders that appeal to the best of America and not simply appeal to our worst instincts.
Former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson announcing yesterday that he's going to be running for president. Did it on ABC with John Carl. Says he's running for president. Does it do anything for you? It does nothing for me. I don't go, oh, there's an interesting possibility. It's not a Vivek Ramaswamy. It's not a Nikki Haley. It's just another old white dude who wants to become president. Does nothing for me. Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer joining us on the show. Congressman, does it do anything for you?
Well, Asa's, I know him just a little bit. I've never had a lot of interaction with him, but he's a wonderful man and a good political leader. So I think it's another quality person in the race, and so we'll let the people sort through them and figure out who our nominee will be next year sometime.
Let me ask you this, because I know a lot of politicians. We could ask probably 100 Republicans right now who you're liking in the 2024 GOP race, and I'm guessing close to 100 Republican politicians would say, well, we're going to let everything, we'll figure it out when we get there. But as a politician, where you're in the midst of the stuff, Congressman, are you at least, and you don't have to give us an answer of who it is you're liking, but even as a politician, are you thinking already about, okay, so here's the folks that have declared, we got this guy, we got that guy, here's who I'm liking, here's who I'm not liking, kind of more as a personal point of view. Are you thinking about this stuff already?
Yeah, I think everybody, if you give you an honest answer, they're all thinking about it. And I think, we look at it, those of us in the political world look at it from who is the best one, not necessarily who I like the best, but who is the most electable, who can lead our party, who can win in November, or next November, and straighten out this country. I think that's the way you need to look at this. And I think there's a lot of good people in this race. So, I think, President Trump's indictment is kind of throwing the balls up in the air here, but we'll see how it all gets sorted out here shortly. But I think, we need to, from the Republican standpoint, need to look at who can be our standard bearer, who can get the party to come together, and who can lead us to victory, and then who can lead this country, both domestically and with foreign policy. We've got a lot of foreign policy problems in this country, and we're going to have somebody who's got some foreign policy chops to be able to stand up to the Chinese, stand up to the Russians, stand up to the Syrians, the Middle East folks, the Iranians, Iraqis. But they're going to have somebody who's got some backbone to be able to push our position in the world and get this world straightened back up.
It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS. I am Branden Rathert, joined by Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Brian Houseworth, producer Hannah. Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer joins us on the show this morning.
Congressman, talk to us about H.R. 1, the Lower the Energy Cost Act. We just heard from Fox News this morning that the Saudis are going to cut production and try and ramp up the cost of oil once again.
Yeah, the gist of that bill was to try and help us become energy independent again, to open up permitting, to streamline the permitting process, to be able to encourage our own domestic oil production. As you've seen yesterday, the Saudis and even all the OPEC nations say they're going to cut production. I think the Russians have cut their production about 500,000 barrels a day, if I'm not mistaken. And that's going to drive prices up. And so the other concerning part of this is that the Saudis and the Russians and Chinese now don't trade in dollars anymore. A lot of people don't realize that all the oil is always sold around the world in dollars. It's not sold in rubles, not sold in euros. It's not sold in Chinese yuan. It's sold in dollars, which is a really, really big deal for us in the United States. It helps us with our reserve currency position. Now there's a break in this action here, and the Russians and Chinese trade in the yuan all the time, and they're beginning to look at other countries, especially the Middle East folks, being willing to trade in something other than dollars as well. So this is a huge hit to our dollar. It's a huge hit to our reserve currency status, which down the road could be a really bad deal for us.
Congressman, we appreciate you joining us live on the program. We always enjoy getting a chance to visit with you. Your district now includes part of Columbia and part of Boone County, and one of your staff members, former State Representative Chuck Basie, is running tomorrow for Columbia's school board. What are your thoughts on the race, and what is your impression of CPS, the Columbia Public School District?
Well, they've had some problems that are in the news. That's as far as I know. I'm busy trying to stay in D.C. and do my job there, but I've been watching at least the news reports, and obviously there's some concerns about what goes on there. Chuck has got a very good political mind. He is a strong conservative. I think he'll bring a wonderful perspective to that board that apparently is not there, and so I'm hopeful for him. Hope that he can pull that off tomorrow and bring a little common sense to that situation.
You and I recently had the opportunity to take a look at the new Amazon facility in Ashland and the growth at the airport. You look at states like Florida and places where, a lot of folks are flocking to. What can you and our other congresspeople there in D.C. do to continue the growth here in Missouri?
Well, Stephanie, good to see you. I enjoyed our little visit to the Amazon plant the other day. It's growing and it's going and going to continue to grow there, and so I'm excited about that. I think the best thing that the folks in Congress can do is help create an environment where businesses can survive and grow and thrive, and that is lower regulations, lower taxes, lower the things that help lower the price of energy, to help lower the cost of operation, encourage with lowering taxes. It allows the businesses to keep their money invested in more employees, more plants, more whatever inventory, whatever it is, and hire more people. So I think we can help the situation by putting in place the programs that actually got us out of this mess back in the 16, 17, 18 year 2020 time frame, whenever we cut taxes and showed what happened to the economy. It just went kaboom. It went crazy. And I think those times could be had again if we had leadership at the top who would be willing to sign some tax cuts. I mean, the other day he put a tax increase in, which is a $52 billion increase on small businesses especially. So this is counterproductive. I think we need to create an environment that businesses can thrive in. They want that encourages people to invest, take chances. The entrepreneurial spirit of our people is what makes us different from the rest of the world. And you're stymieing that whenever you have overburden them with regulations and you overburden them with taxes to the point where they can't even get started. The American entrepreneur can figure out how to slice the bread thinner if you just give him a chance. And I think that's what we need to do.
All right, Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, 93.9 The Eagle, 104.5 News Radio, 950 KWOS. I want to play some comments from John Kirby, National Security Council. Last week we laughed because Stephanie and I have said, we've been saying this here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri since January the 20th of 2021. The view of the United States of America has taken a huge hit on the worldwide stage. I was shocked to hear John Kirby say this.
Is that it's also a manifestation of how much China and Russia know that American leadership on the world stage is back.
So John Kirby says China and Russia is what he's saying there, Congressman. They're working together because they know all of a sudden we're back on a worldwide stage. And based on your reaction, I'm guessing I know where your head's at on this.
Yeah, that is the most embarrassing comment that he could possibly make. But everybody knows better than that. I always tell people that they don't realize I interact with a lot of people from other countries, other leaders in different industries, and actually leaders themselves of countries. And so, you get an idea of what they really think of us. And while they respect us to a certain extent, they really don't like us all that much. We're big, we're rich, we're the country that everybody wants to be. And we're that way because of freedom, economic freedom that we have to be able to allow our businesses and people to be the entrepreneurs and do what they do. And, I always tell people you have to continue to work hard to do this. And I think, as much as people don't like Trump for some of this stuff, the things that he really did well were international relationships. And you'll probably look at me and say, well, what do you mean by that? Because everybody kind of hated his guts. No, they didn't. They respected him. They knew that if he said something, he meant it. And you didn't question whether he was going to do it or not do it. You knew he would do it. With this administration, this is why I laughed, and you guys were laughing at this comment, where we had ourselves in a position where everybody else in the world, we were at peace, relative peace. Nobody was creating more new wars like we have now in Ukraine. And while they didn't necessarily like us a whole lot, they certainly respect us. That's where you want to be. And when this president comes in, he wants to go out and hold hands with everybody. That is a sign of weakness to everybody else in the world. Everybody else in the world looks at us and they laugh. They laugh at us right now, and this can't continue. And so when Kirby makes that statement, holy cow! Everybody in the world,
holy cow!
This is crazy. Everybody in the world is just laughing at us now with this administration we have in place, led by a president who is the worst negotiator in the world. I can tell you how bad he was because he was a senator. He came to the position of vice president. Barack Obama thought, man, he's got relationships in the Senate. He'd be the guy to be able to handle his legislative initiatives, go to the Congress and be able to negotiate. He came to the Congress, and the first deal he negotiated, we cleaned his clock, and we never saw him again for the next 7 years. So he is the worst negotiator in the world.
All right, we've got to get.
It scares me every time he goes someplace.
We're the same way. Yeah, whenever Joe goes somewhere on a worldwide stage, Stephanie and I are sitting in here huddled in a corner with a blanket because we're so afraid of what Joe is going to do for our country. Have you talked to Congressman Matt Gaetz recently since our last visit, Mr. Luetkemeyer?
No, I have not.
Okay, just wondering. Last time the congressman was here, he made some comments about Matt Gaetz, and then John Combest, great website, it's kind of like an aggregate website for Missouri news. He posted some video, and Matt Gaetz saw it and got a little touchy about it, and we went viral. Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer, we're always appreciative when you can take time out of your day in D.C. to join us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
It's always fun, guys. Take care. Have a great day and a better week. Take care.
Man, we'll see you soon. Coming up, we're going to be doing the Morning Bell business news, little twist only Stephanie Bell can give us.
Two huge companies set to merge, and I think the only person that might be more excited than me is maybe my son.
All right, so why is Drew? Why is he excited about this potential merger? Stephanie has that story coming up in the Daily DC Rundown. It's coming up 5 minutes. Good morning. It's 8:25. Time for the Morning Bell business news with a little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
It's been a minute since I've seen this, but the Dow futures are up and the S&P and NASDAQ futures are just slightly down this morning as we are just about half an hour away from the market open. So I wasn't a cool mom until, I get to go to a lot of fun conferences, travel. I feel like I've done some cool stuff and my son is completely unimpressed. But
Tom Cotton? Who's Tom Cotton, Mom?
But I told him that I'm going to this conference in later April, and I said, Drew, have you ever heard of Brie Bella? And she was, her actual name is Brianna Danielson, known professionally as Brie Garcia, previously Brie Bella. She was part of the Bella twins or the Garcia twins as part of the WWE. And of course, he knew exactly who she was. Apparently, I believe she was at the Royal Rumble in St. Louis last year when he went. I think that's right. Anyway, he's obsessed with the WWE, is super excited that I might get a selfie with Brie Bella, Brie Garcia.
So where are you going to be that you're going to be hanging out with a wrestler?
So Brie, now I'm going to be in Napa Valley, and she is a co-owner of a winery. They have their own winery. Let's see. Hill Family Estate. She's a wine the two folks together own a winery, so she's going to be giving a presentation apparently. So very excited. Hill Family Estate. So interestingly enough, the WWE has some big news out this morning, and they had a big event last night. Don't ask me what it was, but I saw it was all over Twitter. They were very excited. But this morning, they are announcing that the WWE has been acquired by UFC's parent organization to form a $21 billion company. There's so much money in this stuff. And you think UFC's like actual real fighting, right? there's some,
it's for real.
There's some entertainment value. Definitely entertainment value there. And you think about UFC and from the very beginning, I think about Dana White, and then they had that, what was that show called? The UFC, the Ultimate Fighter. And they had the guys in the house, and it was a reality show, and it was really good. And so you think how, even though UFC is real fighting, they've used entertainment to really build up the UFC in a way that is incredible. And so I can see why the two of these, companies would want to get together. And so, yeah, it's been acquired. I wonder, how that might change it, or will it just propel both of them into even bigger and better things?
UFC is one of those things. I'm not a fan of it, and I think, well, because I'm not a fan of it, other people don't care. A lot of times on the weekends, my friends are scattered, and they're all going to somebody's house to pay for these UFC events, and now you can combine that with wrestling, which I haven't watched since I was 12 years old. When was the last time you watched the WWE or the WWF on the TV, John?
Me personally? Yeah, maybe a while. My cousin used to work for them.
Really?
No kidding.
On the marketing side, yeah, with Jesse the Body and that whole crew.
Jesse the Body Ventura. But it's one of those, I think, well, I'm not interested in it, so nobody else is. Well, people are interested in those to the tune
apparently
of
$21 billion worth of people are, and there's been some drama on both sides with varying people in the company. So I think they're going to come out with it. I think it's under a new name, and they're kind of doing some rebranding and, live entertainment going forward. And so I think it's interesting too, because as we spend more and more time virtually, people behind their computers playing video games and Twitch and all those things, this is still like live events. And you think like some live sporting events, baseball's changing their rules to how to become more exciting. And, these events are exciting, and they're drawing a big crowd and getting people out in person, which I think is good.
And occasionally you'll still get somebody to come up, wrestling's fake. Yeah, we know. That's old news. Fox leans to the right. Yeah.
Yes. My son, I call him Captain Obvious a lot.
Coming up just a few minutes from now, I think we're going to open up the mailbag. Folks commenting about the value of college or the lack of value in a college education anymore. And they're also reacting to what's hot with Hannah.
I think just local news is like the most important stuff to me, even though it's kind of like bad stuff going on around me, but it's the most relevant to me.
Where I come from, there's an old plowboy out turning up dirt. Where I come from, there's a preacher man in a cowboy shirt. Where I come from, where a couple boys fight in the
I don't know. I don't think I have a favorite news subject to talk about. I think anything that creates good discussion, anything that you can talk about with other people, that you can exchange ideas without getting angry at each other, and you can share opinions and broaden your own thoughts on things. I think those are the best subjects to talk about.
My favorite news subject to talk about is probably the environment. I think people don't take into account what's going on in the world right now and all the pollution that's happening, especially in our oceans.
My favorite news subject to talk about is I like the local news because it doesn't get into all these politics and actually tells you what's going on in your neighborhood.
My favorite news subject to talk about is politics with history mixed together.
Favorite news subject to talk about is probably politics, just because everybody has their own opinion about it. I just like how they like bash on Trump, and whether it's right or wrong, I think he's got a bum deal. But so I think it's fun to talk to people about it.
We talk about your work, how your boss is a jerk. We talk about your church and your head when it hurts. We talk about the troubles you've been having with your brother, about your daddy and your mother and your crazy ex-lover. We talk about your friends and the places that you've been. We talk about your skin and the dimples on your chin, the polish on your toes and the run in your hose, and God knows we're gonna talk about your clothes. You know talking about you makes me smile. But every once in a while, I wanna talk about me, I wanna talk about number one. Oh my, me, my, what I think, what I like, what I know, what I want, what I see.
I just wanted to thank you very much for being where you are for 3 hours of my day.
I'm a new listener and already a huge fan.
You're calming for my soul.
Hey, hey, baby, can't you hear me calling? So let's stay home and enjoy the view, 'cause I just wanna be loved by you, yeah. Don't answer the door, don't answer the phone. Let's tell the world to leave us alone, 'cause I just wanna be
town of Rolling Stone will be back, and we'll be with you every step of the way. And what did I say? I said Rolling Fork, Rolling Stone. I got my mind going here.
Yeah, or you don't. I was in Rolling Fork. Town of Mississippi got hammered by tornadoes recently. Called the town Rolling Stone. And that's Joe. Welcome into the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert. There is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Producer Hannah is here.
Hello.
Mr. John Marsh.
Here, sir.
Houseworth is here, too. My name is Branden. Something we can do for you, 874-9390. I think we're going to open up the mailbag here in a few minutes because we've got a wide array of texts this morning at 874-9390. 874-9390. Story. News Tribune, Jefferson City News Tribune. Apparently, Cole County Commissioners trying to get this the courthouse clocks fixed. Story in the John. Do you recall? And Houseworth, you might have some point of view on this too. When was the last time that the clocks, Cole County Courthouse, worked?
Oh gosh, early 2000s, I think.
Yeah, it would have been, and literally how I remember it, John, would have been a governor. You're right, early 2000s. It was Governor Holden because. For some reason, he had an event down there, and I remember it working. And they have just, I don't know if it's parts. For a long time, they said they had a hard time with parts and then getting people to do it. But they're just, at 11 o'clock in the morning, it might say at 6 o'clock or whatever. It seems like it hasn't worked in years. It's probably been a good 20 years.
According to the News Tribune, says the clock has been broken since 2006. Hannah was 5.
Wow, that's a long time to be broken.
Literally, my law office, I sit at my desk and I can stare at the clock tower. And yeah, if you're like, I wonder what time it is. Oh, wait, never mind.
I do. I'm going to fact check them, and I do believe it was 2004. Because Bob Holden was governor when that happened. But they may have fixed it then, and then they broke again. But I mean, it's been a long. Even if it's 2006, that is what 17 years. That's a long time.
And it's an old mechanical clock. It's not, it's like some, they talked about, Brian, I think one time about possibly replacing it with some modern electronic guts, for lack of a better term. And they decided against it because it's, it's kind of historical in its own right. And it takes a specialized company to work on the thing.
I think it was a question about parts, too. And you're right. I mean, as I recall, the public did not really want any of they wanted it to go back to the way it used to be. That's my recollection.
Yeah, I think at one point the estimate was like 75,000, like one they dug out a long time ago, and I would say, yeah, not worth it. But now they've been seeing, hey, the other folks are getting their clocks fixed for a lot cheaper, and they came up with a company. I think now the estimate's like 10,000, which I'm like, for 10,000, let's get that thing fixed. The other thing, I'm like, can we call like Nick Parks with, he has that outdoor screen at Ashland. Can we just computer, like put
a digital clock up in here.
And he said his screen's like the same thing as like the Mizzou scoreboard. It'd be kind of fun if you could change the colors, light it up, whatever. You could make it look like an old clock. I'm sure they could figure this out.
Well, one of the challenges has been every time there's a picture that you see maybe in the newspaper or on KRCG, every time you see the courthouse clock, the time is wrong. Well, here's how you fix that. The clock, I think, according to the picture in the News Tribune, clock is stuck at 12:20. Anytime you do pictures at the courthouse, you just do it at 12:20 in the afternoon or 12:20 at night.
But it is
perfect time twice a day.
And Stephanie brings up a great point about the aesthetics, because I like that idea of looking better. But the other thing is people go to court, they go to trials, or maybe they have jury duty, and sometimes they do depend on that clock. And
Are you serious?
They do, I'm sure that I know years ago they did. I've some of them do. They don't have a watch.
Oh, it's Tuesday, noon o'clock. I'm getting arraigned in New York.
12:20. This would be more people that have to go for something. But yeah, it'd be nice to have that fixed. Now
it could show the temperature. You could put like an emoji up there. Like, I mean, you could really get creative.
The Hawthorne Bank clock, I believe, it used to be Exchange. I believe that still works. But this other one, I think it was a question of parts. Maybe nice to see that fixed. And
the bell is supposed to ring. Did it used to ring too?
I think so.
See, those are one of those. That's misophonia. Noises that will drive me insane. Whenever I hear those big clock bells that ding the time, like, man, that's not necessary. You don't because they'll ding some of them. If you're doing through 12 o'clock, you do 12. I mean, you're talking, I don't know what is 12 plus 11 plus 10 plus 9, however many times a day that is.
I think there's also church chimes downtown that ring as
St.
well.
Peter.
So.
St. Peter, yes. And technically, and this is a tradition, it's not in statute, but technically, Brandon brings up the bells at St. Peter. When a governor is inaugurated,
that's right,
they generally will wait until, in fact, they do wait until the bells ring at St. Peter. And back in 2009, they were waiting to inaugurate Governor Jay Nixon, and the bells didn't work. And they had to wait, as I recall, it was like 15 minutes, and it was freezing outside, but they've had to get something fixed. But generally, they wait for that. But they do work. And I believe there is a couple of Protestant churches downtown that have the bells as well.
Joe's fact-checking us via text, 874-9390. He says, hey, you guys, I've seen that clock. It is actually right twice a day. Right. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Letters.
All right, it's time for the mailbag.
I get letters.
We don't ever get letters.
So many
We
letters.
do get a bunch of texts
A whole bunch of letters.
on a wide variety of topics.
I'd even read mail from a cow.
So topics today, Stephanie uncovered a poll that says more and more Americans, or fewer and fewer Americans, have confidence that the money we pay for a college degree is worth it. Less than 50% of Americans think it's worth it to go to college. And so we've been getting some comments in that vein. One of our listeners says, if parents didn't pay for their kids' health insurance until they were 27, young people might think a college education was worth it. Those same parents are paying for the kids' car insurance and their cell phones and cable bills. The failure to launch generation has arrived. We were talking about this, that fewer and fewer people, they don't feel good about the cost of a college education. We're talking about some of the other viable options that are out there. The other thing we talked about, we do something called What's Hot with Hannah. Do it every morning, 7:25-ish, just something different in the news, and an interesting one this morning.
Yeah, for the first time ever in Australia, there is a $5,500 doll that has sold out. The doll's name is Donna. And what people are doing is putting Donna in the passenger seat of their cars so that they can use the carpool lane.
And that's not what Donna was designed for. But people in cities that have the carpool lanes, that's, on the interstate, you got to have two people in that car to ride in that car lane. There are places that will say you can be ticketed if you don't have at least two people in your car. So people are buying this sex doll and they're putting the sex doll in the front seat of the car so they don't have to pay a $15 ticket or whatever to go driving in the lane that's
the fast lane.
The fast lane. One of our listeners,
the real
fast
lane.
You're not going to read this over the air, are you?
One of our listeners, Brian, sent an ad for one of these dolls, but it's in Craigslist and it's used.
Oh, no.
So not only are people buying these things, but then some people they buy them used.
Gross.
And sent us copy. He said $2,000 for a used one. How much was the new one, Hannah?
$5,500.
$5,500.
I have.
Is it gently used or?
Your mom listens to this show, Hannah.
Lowe's sells.
Oh boy.
Sells. They're for parades. I have a blow-up snowman that looks like he's waving that rides in your passenger seat for parades. There are other.
Yeah, buy an inflatable
characters
snowman. Put that in the front seat of your car.
They're
and see,
not looking that closely, and it's $20.
or vice versa. After you're done, then it's just odd that people would then. So I don't know which is weirder: the idea that one guy's going to sell it gently used, but then there's another dude going, I might buy. Is that negotiable? You willing to negotiate on the price of?
Just wants to drive in the fast lane. That's all.
My goodness. I like this. Call Doc Brown to fix the courthouse clock. He broke it like back in 1955 during the big electrical storm. Nice reference to the movie Back to the Future starring Michael J. Fox. Coming up just a few minutes from now, we might do some leftovers, then getting into the Gary Nolan Show. Do not forget, of course, I think everybody knows this. Why we all talk about it, we know this, but then we get poor turnouts anyway. Steve Korsmeyer, Cole County Clerk, said he was, what did he say this morning? He was expecting, 14% turnout, John?
I think he said 12.
Yeah.
12%. Brianna Lennon, I thought, got awfully bold last week. I think she told Brian Houseworth in Boone County, and I don't know what they're expecting in Callaway County or Randolph or Audrain County, but I know Boone County, they were thinking as high as 20%. Seems really high for a municipal election. But everybody says, yeah, I know the election is tomorrow. If we all know it, then why is there only 12 and 13 and 14% turnout in what I would say the most important elections, those municipal elections, especially for school board races? You're determining who's going to be, in effect, having a say-so in what your little kids are learning in school. Tomorrow. No excuse absentee voting continues today. Pretty easy experience, too.
Super easy.
All right, coming up just a few minutes from now, so we will do The Leftovers. A couple of things we didn't get a chance to do, and then it's my dad's favorite show. It's the Gary Nolan Show. He's getting
Enjoy.
All right, still some really good stuff. Just didn't get a chance to get to them during the show. Wanted to make sure we clean out the fridge here before we get into Gary Nolan's show on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS. That point in the show, we open up their fridge, see what we have in the way of leftovers. What do you have in your fridge, Steph?
I'm not usually like a movie girl, but we talked earlier about this Air Jordan, or it's called Air, but it's about Air Jordan's movie that releases this week. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. I'm really excited about that. But there's also this Tetris movie that released this last weekend, and it involves, how Tetris got released to the whole world and the folks going over to Russia and the Cold War era. So that one's on my list. And then also there's a Super Mario Brothers movie coming out this weekend, which my kids are really excited about, but I also grew up on the Super Mario Brothers, so I'm very excited about it. So if you're looking for something fun to do, it's kind of, I think this is a fun week for movies.
I don't go to a whole lot of movies. I don't hear so well. I can't be in movie theaters. But
You can't stay awake.
I can't stay awake. But John Wick, these John Wick movies, I only got into these probably within the past 3 months. There happened to be a marathon on one weekend, and I stayed home and watched them. I'm like, oh, yeah, these are actually pretty good movies. But there's a fourth John Wick that's apparently in theaters now, and it's apparently doing well. Marsh, what do you got for leftovers?
I have information, a follow-up on the clock at the courthouse from Sam Bushman, our presiding commissioner. It says the clock has been working. It stopped when Pee Wee Fork was in office, but we had it repaired. The bells haven't rung correctly, but this is an old Seth Thomas clock from 1920, so we have gotten our money's worth. Didn't work when Mark Ellinger left office, but I had it repaired.
Mark Ellinger.
Thank you, Sam.
Ellinger Bell.
Get it?
Yeah, I like it. Very nice. So it's been in operation for 100. This is the Cole County Courthouse clock. There's an article, nice article, in the Jefferson City News Tribune about trying to fix it. 10, 15 grand. I didn't realize it was 100 years old.
I also don't buy this about it's really old, because you go to Europe and their clocks are hundreds and hundreds of years old and they all work. So let's get with the picture.
Yeah, they do a lot more than just chime. They have figures that march in and out on the hour and all that. Yeah.
Other things that we have for leftovers this morning, Cardinal Health, longtime employer in Moberly, is apparently going to permanently close its manufacturing facility on Highway 24, probably sometime later this spring and summer, and this is going to affect a bunch of employers there. As a matter of fact, the first phase of layoffs, according to KOMU, which includes most of the 130 employees, going to be happening on May 31st. And this is in addition to Orscheln, as it gets new owners at Orscheln. Some folks working there are going to be affected, not necessarily all losing their jobs, but a bunch of people going to be affected. So you've got some 250 people collecting paychecks in one of our mid-Missouri towns in Moberly that could be affected by some of these things that are happening. There's a new drug that we have to worry about as parents called Trank. Apparently, it's one of those. It's a horse sedative. It's called xylazine. Street name is Trank, but apparently people are now mixing this stuff with the fentanyl, and the fentanyl, of course, comes from China, comes from Mexico, and there has been a case in Missouri. As a matter of fact, Ryan Sheehan and Heather Harlan, public information specialist with the Columbia Boone County Public Health and Human Services, said the source of xylazine to the general public can be hard to pinpoint. Missouri Veterinary Medical Board disclosed to KRCG that the veterinarians must account for their products daily. So it's another thing out there folks are worried about. We did cover this morning, but Missouri Governor Mike Parson did issue an executive order following those storms on Friday. And be careful when you're going to hire somebody, because did see following that incredible hailstorm that happened on Friday. Chad Meefer, I think that's only the second time in my life I've ever actually sought shelter. Have you ever actually, in the midst of bad storms, I think of all the years that I've lived in Missouri and along the Gulf Coast, which is storm ripe, I think only twice in my whole life have I ever sought shelter because I was that scared of something.
No, a lot.
A lot?
A lot. I mean, yeah. I lived in Jeff City my whole life. So yeah, a lot.
Friday was only the second time I've ever done that. Hannah, what about you?
I've done it several times.
Several times?
Actually, the very last assignment I ever turned in college, I was taking shelter, and I submitted it on my laptop while I was taking shelter.
I've sought shelter like in my home. I've sought shelter in my office. My mom has super bad luck. She's had to go to like the basement of a hospital, a mall, a hotel. She's seen like the underbelly of like so many public places. I'm always like, I don't want to be anywhere with you in the bad weather. But yeah, I just want to be at home. But yeah, I could never live in a place without a basement. I don't think. You were in like a bathroom. I need like a bunker. I have like 3 sides concrete.
But I was in that bathroom. I had my my prep kit.
And a pot on your head or something? What'd you have?
I had my go kit. I had shoes and a bottle of water.
You should have grabbed like a Snickers or something.
Snickers bar. I was all prepped. You are in for a real treat. Coming up next, it's the Gary Nolan Show. It does happen to be my dad's favorite radio show here on the radio station. And then later today, and here's the other the cool thing I love about the radio stations here is the amount of local talk show hosts between Gary Nolan and then Randy Tobler. I love Randy Tobler's show. Whatever happened today while you were at work, Randy Tobler is on it. So you're coming home. Any weird stuff as it relates to legislation in Jefferson City, he has that for you. He's on that stuff. Nolan is coming up next here on the show. See ya.
Bye.